The pillows are fluff thanks to Miss Emily. The couch is wide enough, join the family. It's all love while we laugh at Bert's criminalities. Hey, 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 welcome to the Sofa Squad. Sipping from the cup at hey, hey, hey. Come laugh with the Sofa Squad. Can't roll my damn eyes hard enough. Oh, please, the puppies need me. Ooh, oh, please, my body is rejecting none of that fancy credential stuff. I'm just here for the cringe binge. Hey, 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 welcome to the Sofa Squad. Sipping from the cup and hey, hey, hey. Come laugh with the Sofa Squad. Can't roll my damn eyes hard enough. Oh, please, the puppies need me. Oh, please, my body is rejecting none of that fancy credentialed stuff. I'm just here for the cringe binge. Hey, 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 welcome to the Sofa Squad. Sipping from the cup that hey, hey, hey. Come laugh with the Sofa Squad. Can't roll my damn eyes hard enough.
Hi. I can't hear you, Paul.
I had it on mute. It's never a show with me if there's not audio things at the very beginning. Hello, everybody. I hope y'all are doing well. We have a lovely, wonderful guest, the murder nerd, Delaney. She has been here. You've been part of the Sofa Squad for a long time, right? It's been a minute. And we talk and all that kind of stuff and whatnot. And so she lives out in Arkansas where this case took place. And we kind of were talking whatever. And I was like, you should come on and just like, let's talk about it in general from someone who lives around there, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what we're going to be doing. Thank you, moderators, for being here and keeping the sofa going and the cushions fluffed. I do appreciate y'all and the Sofa Squad. Thank you. And thanks for joining us. And so in typical Paul fashion, Murder Nerd texted me a little bit ago. It was like, hey, are we still on for 3 o'clock today? And I was like, all my drama, please hold. I was like, yes, we are. We're going to do. I was sitting there and I was like, what is the 24th? I was like, something is happening today. Looked at my calendar. Nope. Even though I could have sworn I put it in there. So thank you for working with me on that. So that being said, first things first, let's talk about you, Arkansas, your channel. So you do true crime, and I think that first of all, I always love the way you present your cases. They're very well researched. You're oftentimes doing, to me, what seems like kind of how I would do, like, this case caught my interest over here. I'm going to go I'm going down the rabbit hole. Here's what I found. You know what I'm saying? Like that type thing. And you always have the coolest sets going on and whatnot.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's all real. It's not green screen. You can see this is a real bookcase.
This is all real too. I'm in the courtroom.
Yeah.
So let's talk real quick about just the basics of the case for those who are, they're not familiar with it or they're brand new to it or whatever. I call it Devil's Den. And I guess before we get into it real quick, explain to everybody Devil's Den. It's like what it is, where it's at, etc.
It's a state park, Arkansas State Park. It's kind of in the southern edge of the Ozark Mountains. And it's called Devil's Den after the Devil's Den cave. We have a Devil's Den cave, a Devil's Icebox cave. There's just lots of caves and stuff. And, I guess it was just like superstitious white settlers that, oh, it's spooky. And so they called it the Devil's Den. So.
It's Den. And so and to me, like looking at this case, I was like, the area is so beautiful, which is what makes even more tragic of what took place there. And so, very quickly to go over for people who are new to it. So, this is very recent. We're talking July 26, 2025. There was a couple and their two children. They were recently had moved there, and we'll talk more about that, as well as the perpetrator. That's what's so interesting, how this intersection took place. But the victims were Clinton David Brink, only 43, and Cristen Amanda Brink, only 41. They have two younger children, 7 and 9. Well, they had gone to go hiking, and it sounds like a huge pastime there in your area where, like you said, it's very outdoorsy, very, hey, let's do all the things outdoors. And they were like, hey, we're going to go spend some unplugged quality time with the family. We're going to do all the things. And it turned into this absolute tragic nightmare where this guy, Mr. Andrew McGann, I guess was hiding. We'll get into some of that stuff there, but the long and short of it is he attacked them with a knife. He attacks the husband first. The mom is able to get the daughters and say, hey, let's get you to help. She gets her, go do your thing, go find help, whatever. And then, pardon me, the mom comes back to help the dad. Sadly, she is killed as well. The girls get, are, when I say safe, I mean, obviously there's extreme trauma and whatnot, but they were not murdered. And they were found, whatever. And so then 911 phone calls are made, and the people come, they find the bodies, unfortunately, the parents. And then how much longer, what was it, days that he went to the hair salon? Was it like the next day? I mean, it was like very soon thereafter, wasn't it?
It was a couple of days. I believe he was like on the run or at large for, I believe, 3 or 4 days. And I remember this because one of my best friends lives south of Fayetteville, so kind of closer to Devil's Den. And she was absolutely terrified because she didn't know if he was hiding in the woods. And, because she lives real rural, she lives outside of town. So, she was really terrified about that.
Oh, I can imagine. I can totally imagine. Well, he goes to a hair salon to get a haircut, and the women who talked about it, that cut his hair and whatnot, I mean, they knew. They were like, spidey senses went off immediately. This guy gave off very unwell vibes, whole 9 yards. So very soon thereafter, cops are showing up. He gets arrested, taken into custody, so on and so forth. And they kind of put everything together, like, oh, this is what this is, or whatever. One thing I thought that was interesting about this is okay, so how we sit here and talk about like some of these perpetrators, so Brian Koberger, a Taylor Ship business, whatever, where it's like they have this energy that you're just like, okay, even through the camera, or this, whatever you want to call it, they seem unwell. They seem something's off. So hearing her talk about like, yes, as soon as he walked in and I saw his eyes, like the way she described it, I was like, whoa, yes, she saw evil in person. Imagine her having to sit there and go along with him in the chair, like what that made her feel like.
Yeah. She seemed like she was really scared whenever they were interviewing her on television.
Oh yeah, she seemed really shaken by it, like really, because I mean, like especially when she put it together. Now, I guess a couple of questions that I have about your area in general, whatnot. I mean, are we talking like, and I know this is a air quote shocking crime, but it sounds to me like this is even like this, almost like this never happens here, like to that level. Like, what are we talking about with crime and all that kind of stuff there?
So this is one of the fastest, literally one of the fastest growing metro regions in the country. So we have a lot of people moving in. So that's, the fact that both the perpetrator and the victims were brand new and had just moved here, that's kind of normal. But as far as this type of violent crime, no way. I mean, we do get some, murders and assaults and things like that, but they're the kind that it's like, oh, some, guys got drunk in a bar and got in a fight, or, this is some guy who owed another guy money for drugs, or, you do get some crimes like that, but they're like the kind that are pretty obvious and quickly solved. So this kind of thing with someone getting stabbed to death in a park, I mean, this was busy. Like they had multiple witnesses who saw this guy, who saw the couple. This was a Sunday, I believe it was a Sunday afternoon. at this park. I mean, it's really popular park, really popular trail. There were people all over the place. So this was like nothing like this ever happens here.
One thing, and so this is a good point that you bring up. So when this took place, because like I said in my video or whatever, like I hike all the time, and there's a place near me called Umstead that's like my go-to because it's literally, I mean, like right on the road. And so I'll go during the week or on the weekends, whatever. Clearly, the state parks are going to be more busy on the weekends, so on and so forth. So me trying to pivot myself to being there through the eyes of what it's like to go to Umstead. And in my world, I'm like, look, there's always rangers in the woods. Like you don't even know if they're there, kind of a thing, right? Like that type situation, but you can feel like I'm out in the middle of nowhere. However, on a Sunday, I'm just like, yeah, you can hear people talking at even this massive state park. So that's what was even more bizarre. But I mean, how big of a state park is this? Like, I guess part of it is, why would he think he could get away with this in such a public area during a busy time?
Yeah, that's a thinker, because I wondered that myself. But Devil's Den is really big. We have several trails, and the Devil's Den Trail, which is the name of the trail that they were on, I believe it's like a 2-mile hike. I mean, it's not super far. It's moderate, a little bit hilly, but not like heavy duty. So I can only chalk it up to the fact that because he's new here, he didn't really know how busy it would be, maybe. I mean, yeah, the whole thing is just so weird because it kind of seems like he had pre-planned something, and for whatever reason, it didn't go according to plan.
Yeah, and so on the pre-planned thing, and so this is one thing I'm curious about your take on this. We kind of talked about it a little bit before. So he showed up with a knife, and it appears that before he got there, like he had done the license plate thing, because correct me if I'm wrong, I think you had said that witnesses said they saw him get in the car. There's no talk of covering up the license plate prior to. You see what I'm saying? Like that kind of a thing. So then it makes you wonder. Let's go down two paths here, and we're just going to sofa speculate for a second. So let's say that he started off like, today's the day. Here I've been Brian Koberger type vibes. Like I've been whatever. So I'm going to get my knife. I'm going to cover myself up. But then it's like, well, why would you go Sunday and do that? Like what the pre-planning thing? There's so many questions with it. So then it's like, was he pre-planning something else and then this got out of control? You see what I'm saying? Like, what was he pre-planning?
Right.
How did we arrive there, if that makes sense?
Right. And that's why it is really, I really want to hear more from him, because there are these things that point to some pre-planning, like the fact that the license plate was covered with black tape, that he brought a knife with him. But then there's other things of like, well, how would he just like think he could get away with stabbing 2 people in the middle of a state park like this? So yeah, there's the possibility, and again, sofa speculation, that maybe he thought he could use the knife to like intimidate and maybe kidnap the girls. That's been kind of floated around, and that could possibly be something. But I mean, if he pre-planned it, he didn't plan it very well. But I mean, people can be stupid.
Yeah, and so that also kind of brings us onto the topic of like motivation. So like when I was looking at this, and then if you look at the history that he has with the school systems, with the school systems and the situations he got into there, which were inappropriate behavior, odd behavior, favoring girls, saying weird things, blah, 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 blah. And to me, it seemed like he played this game. that he would go to a school district and either something would happen, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I think you said you had some experience working in school districts or whatever, so this is just me completely making this up. But I was like, he seems to go do something creepy, knows his number's up, leaves or does the situation before it can be documented, and however that takes place, even though there was some documented things or whatever, and then is like, oh, now I can scoot around and get to the next one. Does that make sense? Like, and not every single one that he did that on, but to me, I was just like, he's playing the game. Like, he's intelligent enough to know, oh, wait a second, I need to fold him to be able to go on to the next thing.
Yeah, that's totally what it looked like. Because like he would only for maybe 1 year max. Some years it looks like he left in the middle of the school year or only after a few weeks or whatever. And always kind of under a cloud of like, oh, well, he was being investigated, or it was like you said, it was like he knew that he needed to just get out of Dodge before anything that was going to go on his permanent record, so to speak, really came out. And I've heard other people being interviewed about this that talk about how it's a passing the trash situation, where if the guy can, or whoever, if the person can resign before any action, disciplinary action or findings are taken, then it's like they got a clean slate and they can just go to the next school and nobody's the wiser. And so, that is kind of scary.
Another thing too, talking on that matter there about, being able to kind of duck out or, whatever. One of the schools, and again, I'm not quoting this here, so just work with me. Whichever one did the thing that was like, yeah, we did an investigation, we didn't find A, B, or C. Like, to me, when I read it, my initial reaction to whatever was said was, I was like, well, of course the school's going to say, like, they have a vested interest, and they're not going to come out and say, yeah, you know what, we investigated, and this guy was doing some really creepy stuff the whole time he worked here. So where they're like, well, no, we didn't find this. It was more of it was like they made it generic, is the vibe that I got. They made it more generic, but I was like, well, you can't trust this because it's like they investigated themselves. Like, of course they don't want A, B, or C to come out on their watch. So it just seemed like, and like you said, passing the trash, like going boom, 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 boom. And this enabled the situation. Now, I don't know if you saw the interviews or watched some of like the people who had some kind of history with them. So like the kid he grew up with, not the kid, I mean, is a man now, but I'm saying, that dude who grew up with him, and talking about behavior where it was almost like this volatile nature of Andrew. And that, like, yeah, you would be fine and you'd be this way, but then he would get super angry over this and da. So like we were talking a little bit before, I was almost like, I wonder if, besides the girls, with the victims, because I do believe that the girls were a motivation, but there's tons of families there. So it's almost like, what about this situation? Did he have some run-in with them? And I feel like the girls are going to probably have answered this question, a lot of this stuff, to the investigator. Obviously, they're kids. We're not going to hear, like, that's not going to come out, because I think a lot of it they saw firsthand. Like, what did he say when he came up? Was he like, the girls need to come with me? Like, what was going on there? And I would hope that information came out so the investigators know. Or like we talked about, did he have some run-in in the parking lot and he knew he was going to pick somebody today and he felt like this dude got his spot? And so you see what I'm saying? Like, he was like, oh, here, I'm following them.
Yeah. And that's certainly possible. And as far as the knife, I mean, maybe he's like, I carry a pocket knife with me everywhere I go, but it's just a pocket knife. Like, you'd have to work really hard to murder someone with a pocket knife. But, maybe it was something that he just took with him hiking and he happened to have it. I mean, I can kind of see both. I could see where it would be just like his temper just went off. Maybe he said something or was looking at those girls in some kind of way, and one of the parents like said something to him, or and then that's what set him off. Or maybe he was thinking he would do something. I kind of think he was maybe planning on using his knife just to intimidate, but again, it's so hard to know. They're looking at him for, I think you mentioned they were looking at some other kind of similar types of murders in rural areas. I think one was in Vermont and one was was it Iowa or
I think
Illinois?
so. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there was there was other similar situations,
Yeah.
stabbings, etc., where it was like, you know, it'll be curious to see if he has done this before. Then clearly, it would tell you why he was like, oh, I'm going to go Sunday afternoon. You know, I've done this twice into 2 other states. I'm just going to do my thing, do this. I'll be on the road and, you know, whatever. They're never going to know it's me. You know, I got away with it twice already. We haven't heard much more on this investigation, so they might go nowhere. It could be literally another Brian Koberger of, if this was the day, here I go. I've been thinking and fantasizing about this, and whatever happened made me decide to go do this today. You know, and like you said, with him being new and maybe not knowing the area and just knowing, because even if you go like and look, like I'm trying to think here, some of the places when you go to a new park, it's you don't know the nooks and crannies of these places. And so I would like to think in my mind, if it's like, you know what, I'm going to go to a park and take somebody out, that one would want to do it with one that you're very familiar with and would know, well, if this happens here, I know I can cut back this way to get back to the parking lot. You know what I mean? Like something rather than, well, this looks like a good place. I just stop one in here, you know. It's just so wild to me. But again, look at the Brian Koberger situation of like so many questions with how that played out. And it's like, no, he just kind of almost like a woke up and I'm going to be a lawyer today vibes. You know, I think there was way more playing with Brian, but.
Oh, yeah, there was tons of playing. He thinks he's the smartest person in any room.
Oh yeah.
The more that I've read about, you know, the interviews with people and stuff now that they've been unsealed, it's like, yeah, he thought he was smarter than all the cops. That's what that was.
Oh, yeah. 100%. 100%. I'm loving every horrible moment he's having that we're hearing about in the papers and the headlines and stuff. I'm like, well deserved. You earned that award there, buddy. Enjoy it while you can. Sure. I'm gonna look at this article for some talking points because I was reading this before we got on the phone, but you know this. And it's from I don't know what CNN, and it's about you know, the unanswered questions that we have or whatever. And so in the first one, this is where I got on my mind. Was the attack targeted or random? Now I'm going to just read this real quick and we can kind of talk about whatever. So Arkansas State Police Colonel Mike Hager previously said the killings appeared to be a completely random event because there's absolutely no indication, no reason whatsoever to believe there's any connection at all between Brinks and McGann. So yeah, that dynamic there of did he know them prior to? I guess I hadn't even considered that. Like in my world, I was just like, no, he just found these people.
Yeah.
You know,
just knowing that they had just moved here from some other state and he had just moved here from Oklahoma. I'm like, there couldn't have been, and they wouldn't have been in his school district. So he was hired to teach at Springdale. They were living in Prairie Grove. So like, I just knew from the initial details of the case that there probably was not any prior connection. You know, I would have been surprised if there had have been a prior connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same here. Then it talks about, you know, him being, he was hired as a teacher candidate by Springdale Public Schools, but he hadn't started working there. State records show he's currently licensed to teach elementary and middle school grades in at least 3 states, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. Most recently, he was a 5th grade teacher in Sand Springs Public Schools in Oklahoma, just west of Tulsa. Now, the next thing, what happened during the attack, and we kind of went over this, but I'm just going to read through it again. So a couple and their 2 daughters, they hiked 2,500-acre Devil's Den State Park. When McGann approached them, police said the park has thick vegetation and little, that was the other component, little to no cell phone service.
Yeah.
That's the tricky thing. So have you been like deep in the park there?
Yeah. I've hiked all of those trails, maybe not all of the trails did I hike all in one go, but through the year, I mean, I'm 52, so like I've lived here for since rocks got hard. But yeah, um, yeah, that's the thing is that it is so rural and so just so far away from everything that there's hardly any cell phone service anywhere out there. And I'm kind of wondering if maybe if he'd been here even a week beforehand and had taken the time to just like hike around a little and been like, yeah, this looks pretty isolated. It wouldn't take a lot to realize that this is way the heck out there and there's no cell phone service. So maybe those were just the factors of why he picked that particular place. I don't know.
And on that level too of the no cell phone service thing, because even again, some of these parks here where you get to them and it's very spotty at best, even here in the middle of like Raleigh, where it's like, if I'm ever talking on the phone, I have to, I can talk halfway into the park. I'm like, okay, I'm getting here. The phone's over when it cuts you off because it's just going to go dead. It's a situation like this that makes it even scarier. Now, going back to the park, Devil's Den, the trail, and you said, I believe it's like, what, a 2 mile? Is it a round? Is it like a circle kind of trail?
But it's got like two little offshoots that go to parking areas. So like, there's like different configurations of ways that you could do the trail. Like you could come in on one side and do the loop and go back, or you could come in on one side, do a loop, and then come out at another place or something. So, it's not just the perfect, like you come in here and there's a loop and you come back to the exact same spot. It connects to other trails. It's very, like, if you look at a map of it, it can look kind of confusing, but it does have fairly good trailblazing, signage and stuff like that. So not too many people get lost, even though it is kind of a maze of trails up in there.
And now on Devil's Den, like, so once you start off on the trail, is the vibe like hardcore wilderness? And I don't know how to explain it, but like there's some trails even here that I do where it's like, I call it pretend woods, where even though you're in the woods, it's like you can hear the cars going right there. And in the fall, you can see the road. So it's almost like an illusion of like, you're not really deep in the, like, is it like that? Or like once you go, is it like, oh no, it's thick. It's crazy. Like somebody could be hiding easily.
Oh yeah.
That type thing.
Yeah. I believe that it borders the Ozark National Forest, parts of the Ozark National Forest. And like, there's one Highway 74, that winds its way. And that's how you get in and out of the park, is that one highway. And so like when you get off of that highway and into the trails, you're in the woods. Now, obviously, if you have any woods sense and you just kind of keep going downhill, you'll eventually run into either a creek or a road. And if you're into a creek, you just follow the creek and that'll take you to a road. So it's not like it's, the forest primeval or anything, but you're certainly not hearing cars go by whatsoever.
Okay, so it's like a true, like, and then Heather Feather says, yeah, once you park, you're surrounded by thick forest on mountains. It's eerily quiet. Okay, yeah. See, I'm used to, and again, I live like central North Carolina, so there's a vast difference in the trail system, like obviously in the mountains versus here. So like where I go around here, number one, it's very populated, and so it takes a lot to get deep in the woods. But even when you think like the other day when we kind of got lost or whatever, I'm like, oh, there's a car. Oh, okay. Well, the roads, the main highway's right there. So we're not too far, but it's almost like it's a state park. They've preserved it, but there's just a lot going on still, so in my world, I'm like, yeah, this would be a really bad place. And in that way, it makes it more safe because you'd have to be really ballsy to kill somebody in some of these local little parks here on that level of that. Not to say somebody wouldn't do it.
Well, on the set he committed the crimes, it was pretty busy. Like, because I was as I was telling you before we went on the live stream, we have a metro region, the Northwest Arkansas metro region, which Fayetteville, my hometown, is the southernmost of the four. It's Fayetteville, Springdale, which is where he was going to be teaching at, Rogers and Bentonville, home office of Walmart, by the way. Just south of there is Devil's Den. I say just south. It's like 20 to 30 minutes south of Fayetteville. And so a lot of people from that whole region, which has over 1 million people, if you count the whole region together, you know, they go down to Devil's Den to swim, picnic, hike the trails, mountain bike, all that kind of stuff. So it's fairly busy on weekends, especially on a Sunday afternoon. Like many of the people that they interviewed had seen him and thought, wow, that guy looks kind of strange. And like one person saw him when he had blood on him. One person caught him getting in his car and driving away. Like it wasn't isolated. Like if you went there in the middle of the week, yeah, it would be like nobody's going to find you for a while. But on a Sunday afternoon, it was full of families and couples and just, you know, people out enjoying the trails.
You know, another thing you bringing that up about the person that was like, yeah, I saw a guy come out of the woods with blood and get in the car and like all things, whatever. And then looking at him, and again, people talking about the energy level, something's off with him. And then the two young ladies at the salon, and you know, what we talked about, the one was so upset, and she was like, yeah, that like evil, something was like off with this man. Fascinating and interesting that so many people have this talk of him, like in this context. At what point in life, I mean, obviously we can say something was not right on this day. He went and killed somebody. This is not normal, not right. Clearly there's some documented evidence and some level of behavior with the kids or being off-putting, like parents didn't like him, but other people said, oh, he's good. Like this mixture. It's almost like, was he slowly mentally declining over the years into like this, bam, here we go. It intersects at the moment at Devil's Den. Or are we talking like, this is just an antisocial, like personality person of some level, and today just whatever, like bam, it happened. Almost like this. People who could talk about him a few days before or a week before, what was the vibe? Like, was he talking normal? Because even looking at his picture, which granted, we're seeing somebody who just got arrested, but nonetheless, I can look at those eyes and like, yeah, he frightens me. And this is through the TV screen, like not even in person. Like he scares me. If I ran into that man, if I was walking on the trail and passed him and we made eye contact, I would be like, I'm nervous, you know.
That's what people said. There was a whole family of hikers who were interviewed. I can't remember exactly where I saw the interview at. I'm sorry. Might have been Law and Crime. But they said that it stood out to them that number one, he was the only single person. Everyone else was like families, couples, things like this. And that he just had that kind of intense, like evil look. And so it stood out to them. Like normally just seeing a single guy wouldn't in and of itself be that crazy. But because he had such an evil look in his eyes and they said he was just like marching, like he had a goal of where he was going. But I get this BTK type of vibe in that I almost feel like he had two sides to his personality, because he was able to get these jobs teaching in all these different school districts. So he was able to at least put forth some kind of facade of being normal and nice and trustworthy and all of this. But then now we're seeing this side that's like, if I imagine that guy going into interview for any job, let alone a teaching job, it would have been like, yeah, thank you. We'll keep your resume on file. You know.
Literally. I mean, that was one of the things that I questioned when this happened, and they were talking, you'd been hired by the school district, all this stuff. I was like, what was this dude's interview like? What did he look like? I want to know all the things. What did he wear? What happened? And like you said, I think he had to, like BTK, any of these people who are able to pull off Ted Bundy, the dual, I'm this on the surface and this is what everybody sees. Kay says, seriously, was it a phone interview? Legit question. Legit question. And maybe it was like a Skype interview and he was like, my camera's not working, because even down to the eyes, like pretend that he could play it off, like his voice and his manners and all that. Like, did evil always come through his eyes? Because like there's this look of evil. Well, Brian, you can almost look at Brian Koberger too, where because we know, like what we know about him is hard to now look at him without that lens on.
Everybody said he was always all creepy and weird all the time.
Yeah.
But
I saw
something asked, are they just desperate for anyone to teach? Now, some places in Arkansas, yes. The south of the state, the Mississippi Delta, yeah, they're desperate for teachers, super poor. But here in the Northwest Arkansas corridor, it is competitive. Like I could not even get substitute teaching jobs in this area because it pays the best, it's the best quality of life, it's just the best part of the whole state. I mean, let's just be honest about it. So it wasn't that they were desperate. They were not desperate. That's what's so crazy about it.
So tell me this, as much as you're comfortable telling or whatever, but when you were talking about doing substitute jobs and stuff like that, did you get to any level beyond like submitting a resume or like any level of like, well, this is what it was like trying to work through the school system or anything like that?
Yeah. So I have a master's degree, and even with a master's degree, you have to interview for it just like you would interview for a regular teaching job. But it's kind of like gig work. Like each district, and I was only able to get on with the Springdale district. I couldn't even get on in my hometown Fayetteville district because it's so competitive. So they'll basically keep you on file, and any school within that district, when they need a substitute teacher, they have this list of substitutes and they'll just like start down the list. And I probably only got called maybe once every couple of weeks, because it really is like it's very competitive in this area, because like I said, it's honestly the best part of the state. And other Arkansans is probably going to come for me for saying that.
Yeah, and interesting because like the school district that was like he was Springdale or whatever it's called, where they were coming out and they were like, he was hired, but he hadn't obviously started. He hadn't had any, contact with any kind of students or, anything like this yet or whatever. Of course, they're going to want to be, major on saying that, right? Yeah. Now, Neva says this is interesting. Neva says, don't forget Bundy had reptile eyes after he was caught and dropped the act. One of the famous pictures speaking on that comment, and Brian Koberger and this guy, the eyes, the whole 9 yards. The famous picture of Ted Bundy where he was doing something in court when he was representing himself, and it's like that picture like that. And it was almost like where people were like, he let his mask down in front of the courtroom for whatever he did. And people saw it for a second like that. And people who even talked about him, because before he went off the deep end, whatever, meaning publicly, like his mask, he couldn't keep it up anymore. Ted was a handsome, generically good looking passing dude for, I can walk around the street and no one's going to question me and I blend in and all the things, charming. But then people who survived him were like, something like his eye, like he literally shapeshifted, what I'm saying? Like literally this thing came out. And I feel like this dude, listening to, he was marching through the woods, he was doing this, it's almost like, okay, when did that come out? Was that 8 o'clock that morning? Was it last night? Was it a week before? Like, what was the process in that?
Right. I really want to know. And the death penalty is on the table since it's Arkansas. So the most likely outcome is that he's going to plead guilty for life in prison without parole, and not the death penalty. That's what I would lay my money on. Then what we have to do is go to the sentencing hearing. So we won't have if that's what happens, we won't have an actual trial. We'll have a sentencing hearing, and that's where we'll get like victim impact statements and things like that. And maybe we'll get more information at that. And then once the sentencing is done, just like with the Brian Koberger case, once it's all done, No more. He can't appeal. It's over. So anything else within that case file, evidence, witness testimony, all of it will now be in the public domain, or just, able to be accessed by the public, unsealed. I'm a writer. I know words good.
Another thing too. So, he went to the thing. He pled not guilty. Da 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 da. I am agreeing where, and we're kind of seeing this happen a lot now with these cases where, again, just depending on where they're at and what their motivation is, whatever. Okay, well, I'll plead guilty. I was actually recently talking to somebody, and it was like they knew about true crime, but not like we do, kind of a thing. So you can these names and be like current names, but past stuff. Michael Peterson. Oh, I know that case, but Donna Adelson. He knew Brian Kohberger, but not like we all do. I'm saying knew of the notoriety, but then I was like with Stephen Stearns, hadn't heard of that or whatever. The long and short of it is we got into this conversation about when they decide to plead guilty, what's coming down the pipeline. So for example, Brian Kohberger sitting here, they're trying to SA me, they're sending me these letters, they're yelling at me, they're doing this, and again, nobody sets out in their car to drive to Idaho at night or to drive to Devil's Den with the thing in their mind of this is what a prison cell is going to be like they're wanting to get away with it. You know what I'm saying? So maybe they do that, but the reality of that once they're there. So this dude is now in jail. The evidence is really, really bad. There's not really a, did you do it? It's more of a, why did you do it kind of a situation. And pardon me. So I think the pressure from that could go towards the, okay, I'll plead guilty, or I'll do this, I don't want the death penalty. But then my next thing with that too is it's like Brian Kohberger. Why would you want to, I get he would live a long time, even if there was a death penalty or whatever, right? Because it takes so many long time years. But I'm like, I'd be like, go fire Sparky up right now, y'all. Get it nice and warm and see the crackles in the background. I will dive into that chair. You know what I'm saying? Period, end of story. I would run to it. Because look at Brian, he's already complaining. We're in week or month one. And I'm like, honey, this is every day the rest of your life.
This is how it is. And the part of me that I, bleeding heart liberal, I'm like, well, even prisoners deserve human rights. They should, get meals. We should feed them. They should have access to health care. And, but at the same time, I'm like, look, buddy, PhD, I'm sorry, you were a PhD candidate in criminology and you didn't know what prison was going to be like. That's the other thing, is that he thought he was so smart. And he literally left his knife sheath. All us true crime nerds were like, boy, if that's all it takes to get a PhD, sign me up,
Right. I know. Pardon me. No, that's the whole thing with the Brian case, where it's just like, dude, come on. Sidetracking again over to Australia real quickly about Aaron Patterson. So one thing that's, and I'm just literally doing a 180 in the conversation here with evidence and talking about once they plead, and then we'll find out more of this when this guy, whatever happens with, Andrew McGann. The more stuff that keeps coming out about Aaron Patterson and seeing how their legal system is so different over there in Australia, where it's like none of this stuff comes out to the very end, and then we'll just little bits and pieces come out. And so we're able to sit here and piece it together even more, has been so fascinating, versus a situation like over here where, look at Brian Kohberger or Stephen Stearns, all the information that we had prior to trial, leading up to the whatever was going to happen, the plea, the trial, whatever, we knew so much stuff about it, and then once it finishes, yes, more things come out, etc. the nosy part of me likes how we have it here. And also I think the transparency, because I think it does help we can see what's going on, type thing or whatever, to keep everybody in the up and up. But also with like Australia, I can see how that trial by media, do all the things, it can completely help with that, to keep everything isolated. This is this, it hasn't been out there, so on and so forth. I just had to say that.
Yeah, and that's kind of the problem with trying to cover true crime in other countries, is that their legal systems are so different than ours, and the rules of how their media can cover things are different than ours too. So, what you might be reading about in the media and how much of that is verifiable, or it just adds an extra level of challenge to covering it. Whereas here, I'm much more familiar with the American justice system and how the media functions and stuff like that, so it's a little bit more familiar, a little easier to navigate.
Now let me ask you this. So like the jail, the courthouse, etc., what is it like? Because when I saw the pictures of him and his thing, I was like, it looks like a tiny little room or courthouse place that he's in. But I was like, this might just be for arraignment, stuff like that. I mean, is it a tiny jail? Is it a tiny courthouse? Like, what's the vibe? Have you ever seen them?
I haven't seen the inside of the Washington County Jail. It's fairly new. I say new again, I'm old. It's probably 10-15 years old at this point.
That's new.
Yeah, but the courthouse, I mean, to me, it's not small, but it's like a block away from my house. It's it's different floors, and I think there's like 2 or 3 courthouses per floor, and so they're not super big. Like the images that I saw, maybe you saw some different ones, they're just kind of showing in the shot, you've got the defendant and their attorneys and the prosecutor, and then you got the judge, and like that area, that looks pretty small, but there is a gallery behind there, so it's not like super rinky dink, and it's only one of, I believe, 4 different courthouses in the actual Washington County courthouse. I don't know, does that answer your question?
No, yeah, completely. Because like I always think it's interesting. So when Shayna and I recently last 6 months went to I'm going to say the name wrong, Bristol, Tennessee. We had gone to go see Megan Boswell's sentencing. And we went to the courthouse, and like I guess we would call it the downtown area. And I was like, it reminded me of the courthouse that's in the town that I came from, where it's like very small, historic looking courthouse. And so I had gone and scoped it out, and I was like, maybe this is the historic one, because like where I came from, you have the historic one, and then you have the real courthouse now that's like what you think, like industrial, whatever, corporate looking. And so Shayna had found out from Sunday, she was like, no, that's right, went to a restaurant. They're like, yeah, no, that's the courthouse where the trial was, and people were out protesting on the street. I'm like, where would people even sit? Like, it was so tiny. It was just like, where was even the case? We didn't even see a courtroom in it. So I'm like, maybe they go downstairs. Like, it was so wild to me. So just those dynamics. Now there's also here in our Fayetteville, North Carolina, we went to, I cannot think of the name of it. I unfortunately cannot think of the name. There is a woman here who is currently in custody for doing really horrible things to adopted kids and murder and all sorts of stuff. So we had gone to a status hearing. Huh?
There's a lot of those, unfortunately.
Yeah, and this is just, it's bad. And we had gone to a status hearing. Now Fayetteville Courthouse is bigger, but it was like your standard wooden benches, et cetera. I mean, we were there for maybe like an hour and a half before we realized she wasn't going to show. Like, they were just a status hearing it kind of a thing. So in that time there, I was like, if we do this trial here, there's no, like, I could not physically sit without having to get up and stretch and move or bring a pillow to sit my butt on and all the things or whatever. So I'm always interested in the pragmatics of what is the layout of the courthouse? What is it like? What is the energy like? etc. Because whatever happens with this, depending, I mean, if it goes to trial, this is going to be one of these big law and crime court TV
Oh yeah.
situations happening in your backyard, so to speak.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. Well, even if it doesn't go to trial, the sentencing hearing will probably be a media circus. So, that's going to be interesting. And the interesting thing too, if there were federal charges, is that the federal courthouse is literally just like a block away from the county courthouse. So like I live in downtown Fayetteville. So like all the things are happening right around me.
Yeah, I forgot about that. So, are the feds looking at anything on this at all? Do we know?
I believe that the last that I heard, now someone in the chat or anyone, feel free to correct me, but the last I heard, the feds were just looking into these other crimes, the one in Vermont and the one in, I believe somebody said it was Wisconsin, the stabbings, but they've been very clear. Like I said, the last that I heard, they were really clear that they were just looking into it and that they weren't bringing in any charges yet. It was just something they were looking at. So, but if
Can you
he
imagine
crimes in any other state, or if he committed a crime against children, which is a definite possibility, that's automatically federal jurisdiction.
Okay, interesting. It'll be interesting to see what pops up, if anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
But if anything else pops up from this, and now, so let me ask you this: like, let's pretend he pleads out. This is probably years down the road. Would you go to his sentencing hearing, or are you not into like doing that?
It's not that I'm not into it; it's that I have a day job.
Yeah. You could write them and be like, "Hello, this is of grave importance." Yeah, like I'm gonna be sick on this day or whatever. So on that note, kind of like winding things down for the hour or whatever, are you, because I know you've got like all different stuff going, are you working on any current videos for your channel, or like, are you particularly like diving down any cases or anything like that?
I had another one set up to talk about the Moonlight murders in Texarkana, which is an old historic case. But then I was like, God, people are probably getting sick of hearing about Arkansas cases, But I was kind of thinking about doing more of an analysis piece about Brian Koberger and how he kind of really seems like an incel, and kind of going off on that a little bit. If people would be interested in something like that. I kind of, it's like, I really like diving into the historical cases, but then I'm like, I don't know if people are really interested in that. So
I think you do a great job with them. And I forgot to mention that when I was talking about your channel, the historical narrative of it, you know what I'm saying? Because I think you do such a good, and just to put like storytelling, like that kind of a thing, because the things that I like to listen to, I mean, obviously I listen to the hearings and the trials and all that type of stuff, whatever. But like when I say like to listen to, it's I tuck the person under my pillow at nighttime. I want these things told to me in story format. And I think you do that very well. And you integrate the historical stuff into it and the little tidbits and all that. So yeah, I think that sounds amazing. Do you have any closing thoughts on Andrew, Devil's Den, et cetera, et cetera?
I would just say that this is nothing like, we never get crimes like this here. We do occasionally get murders, but they generally are the kind that the police can solve right away. It's like, two old boys get drunk in a bar, or somebody owes somebody money for drugs, or somebody's cheating on, it's the typical country music type crimes. So this is like this is so different than anything we've ever got. And so if you want to come to a really nice place, if you like to do mountain biking, which that's the Caitlin Armstrong connection. If you like paddling, if you like hiking, hunting, fishing, camping, any of that outdoorsy stuff, like, we're all about that here. And I think it's a pretty beautiful part of the country myself, but I'm a little prejudiced.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful there. And who knows, maybe now that I know. So Murder Nerd and I were talking beforehand, and we were talking about it, and whatever, I don't know what it was, but I was like, let me pull the map up. And y'all, this is me. I was like, where is I was like, well, Arkansas is right around Oregon and Washington. Why can't I find it? And so I keep kind of like, Arkansas is like on the other side of Tennessee. Y'all, it was bad. I was like, I need to do a refresh in geography here. Because then I was like, Iowa's near Arkansas. In my mind, if any place can show pictures of like piney like parks, that's in that part of the country. That's like in the Oregon, Washington. So technically most states belong in that part of the country, is with my logic and reasoning.
Yeah, we're between Missouri and Louisiana. We're like right between there.
Yeah. So, but maybe, I mean, who knows what could be going on, then, good Lord, but that's close enough to get there for a sentencing thing. Like, you know, if it came up and I might go or whatever, but I mean, who knows what life will bring at that point. So
yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I would love it if you came to visit. I think you'd like it here. It's really beautiful. And yeah, we don't often get crazed stabbing attacks in our state parks, so they're usually pretty safe.
I mean, crimes like that, like, and I don't know the name of this crime or the people involved in it or whatever, but it was here in Raleigh, and I want to say in the last 3 years, where I say a kid, like a young person, basically went to the greenways behind their house in their neighborhood. Like a lot of neighborhoods here have the greenways connected, and he shot and killed, I don't know how many people, just very, like, you know, a mass shooting type situation. And stuff like that just doesn't, random crime. So like, again, in my world, if we heard about a stabbing here at one of the parks here, this would be like that. This would be like, what? That kind of stuff? No, I mean, people are doing your random stuff that you read about every day. I mean, I hate to make it sound like it's not a big deal, but you know what I mean? Your random crimes that you hear about versus this level of just random, bizarre, violent, all the stuff. So yeah. Now, real quick, everybody. So I put down in the description Murder Nerd's channel. Obviously, it's called The Murder Nerd here, but she's down in the description. Her link there. Be sure to check her out. Also, we are going live still at 7 to go over. Oh yeah, do your book. Pull it up. Murder Nerd's also a writer, and I don't know if you put this out there. You write books. How many books do you have out there now?
Well, my first book was a fiction book, and the press that published it went out of business, so it's not really around anymore, unfortunately. But it was called The Devil in Black Creek, and it was like a 1980s kind of early Stephen King type homage type thing. This is my nonfiction, my first nonfiction published, and it's about the Dumond affair, and it starts out as a true crime story, but whereas normally with a true crime story, the bad guy gets caught, gets sent to prison, yay, the end. Well, it ended up getting like pulled into this big state and then national political issue with conspiracy theories and all kinds of crazy stuff. And so Governor Huckabee, not our current governor, her father, Mike Huckabee, turned him loose. And he went to Missouri and raped and murdered 2 women in Missouri. And so, I've got lots of footnotes. If you're interested in crime and history and conspiracy theories and politics and all that, I highly recommend The Dumond Affair. You can get it anywhere you get books online. I recommend bookshop.org to support your local bookstores.
That is awesome. That sounds amazing.
Well, I sent you a copy, so...
Yeah. Once you put up, I was like, that's right, I still have that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get to that because I know just judging from your videos and stuff like that. Like, again, you're well researched in your stuff, and you go down all the little rabbit holes and nooks and crannies. So I know that this is gonna be a good story.
Yeah, it's got lots of footnotes.
And also, side note, then we'll run. So, Murder Nerd also sent me the autographed version of Chad Daybell's book, which y'all are going to be like, boy, you haven't even finished reading. What's that one I can't even get through at this point?
Oh,
Visions of Glory, Visions of
yeah.
Glory.
God.
So I'm going to do that one next. And I kept saying, I was like, oh, we're going to, the first time I was going to have you on was to discuss that. Well, that obviously, I was like, I can't even get Visions of Glory finished. But yeah, tell the story real quick. Like, how did, if you want to, of the Chad Daybell book, like how you came into that. Because I was like, what? You got the autograph? Like, this is crazy.
Well, I mean, it isn't really that great of a story. I just did not want to buy it new because I didn't want to put any money in his pocket. So I just was like searching and crawling over every used bookstore that I could find online. And it wasn't even sold as a signed copy. It was just, a copy. So I'm like, okay, yeah, here's my $10 or whatever it was. And got it. And when it came in and I opened it and I saw that it was signed by him, I was like, whoa.
Scary.
I was like, does that signature have some kind of energy to it or something?
I mean, literally, because when he did it, he was like, Lori, I can't talk right now on the portal. I've got to sign these books. The fans are expecting them.
Yeah.
My tens of thousands of book sales, and oh my God, yeah, we'll have to definitely go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, because the grave, it was terrible, but it was also kind of interesting in a way.
Yeah,
it's just terrible. It's just so bad. If you go to my channel, I actually read it with a couple of other true crime nerds. We didn't read it. We just, talked about it. One of whom is kind of from the Mormon path or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, it was just kind of us talking about it. But yeah, it's just so bad. It is so, so bad, Paul.
it's a good cringe binge. And it also gives you like
listen to as you go to sleep.
Yeah. It gives you insight. One thing about that book in particular was that it gave you that insight into how, even though it's not fiction, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like some things might be whatever, into how he thinks and views people and things and death and life and all that, right? All that stuff. Right. Because I was like, oh, that's how we've arrived here today. Like you get the cockiness, all the things, whatever. Yeah, it's just another person who is right. He can talk to Brian Koberger from across the hallway and they can just have a nice little life together. They can just enjoy. That is, if you think about it, if you wanted to truly punish Brian Koberger, they should move Chad next door and just be like, and then actually put them in a unit where it's just those two. So Brian is subjected to just listening to Chad drone on and on all day long. He'd be like, I want to change my plea. Give me old Sparky. Not anything but this. Put me in Gem Pop. I'll take my risk. I
did hear Lori Vallow was in the same cell block with Jody Hildebrandt in Arizona.
Again, very deserving of each other. Absolutely. Just, I mean, Jody, can you imagine? Just the stuff coming out of her mouth and like being in a situation where you're desperate to talk to people because nothing else is going on or whatever. And so you're like, well, I'm going to have to make friends with her. And maybe it won't be too bad, but neither of them probably could get a word in. They're too busy just going on.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on last minute, not in your world, but for nudging me. But hey, Paul, what's up? Thank you for your patience. Thank you for taking time out of the middle of your day to come on here and talk and go over all this stuff and kind of give a little insight into what the area is like, what the trail's like, the whole 9 yards. This is fascinating to me.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. We'll do it again. So everybody, I'll be back at 7:00. We're going to talk about the things we're going to do tonight with Don Adelson is go over some of the stuff from opening statements. We're going to listen to phone calls from prison just released. And you've already heard these before, but we're going to go over them again. It's like 10 minutes. The phone calls with Sammy from Charlie and Donna. And then we're going to talk about everybody's opinion on Rivera getting on the stand talking about, it was Wendy that wanted him killed. It was Wendy that wanted him killed. So we're going to catch up before we stream tomorrow at the trial. That's it. Thank you, mods, for being here, for keeping the cushions fluff, The pillow's open. Thank
Yeah.
you, Sofa Squad, for being nice to murder nerd. And that's it. I love y'all. We will see you
Thank y'all so
tomorrow.
much.
Everyone have a good one.
The pillows are fluff thanks to Miss Emily. The couch is wide enough. Join the family. It's all love while we laugh at Bert's criminalities. Hey, 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 welcome to the Sofa Squad. Sipping from the cup at hey, 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 come laugh with the Sofa Squad. Can't roll my damn eyes hard enough. Oh, please, the puppies need me. Oh, oh, please, my body is rejecting none of that fancy credential stuff. I'm just here for the cringe binge. Hey, 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 welcome to the Sofa Squad. Sipping from the cup and hey, 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 come laugh with the Sofa Squad. Can't roll my damn eyes hard enough. Oh please, the puppies need me. Oh please, my body is rejecting none of that fancy credentialed stuff. I'm just here for the cringe binge. Hey, 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 welcome to the Sofa Squad. Sipping from the cup that hey, 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 come laugh with the Sofa Squad. Can't roll my damn eyes hard enough.